So page 66 for me, please. Okay, so page 66. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to keep going through some examples on lesson 1. What we need to talk about is like 2 words and how very, very subtle they are, but how it completely changes how you do a question. So when you're talking your way through a question, if you use the word or means add. If you use the word and means times. So you'll hear me really overemphasize those 2 words. So for example, I will say, do you want to do this and this and this, or do you want to do this or this or this? So the words or and become really important in this unit. Again, we don't want to skim read over anything. We just want to take our time and kind of do a slow digest. So not every question needs to be done mathematically. Not every question needs to be done by following formulas. You can literally just count as well. You don't have to make questions stupid hard. So for example here, it says there's 2 routes from Pitland to Queensville. So that's the P and the Q. And 3 routes from Queensville to St. Luke's, so Q to S. There's 3 routes from Pitland to Rutherford, so that's the PR, and 1 route from Rutherford to St. Luke's, so that's the RS. How many routes are there from Pitland to St. Luke's through Queensville? So in other words, how many ways are there to get from here to here, assuming I have to go through Queensville? So you can count. You don't have to do the math. You could just say, okay, well, I could go that way. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 ways. Now, if you wanted to do it the math way, we would do the blanks method. How many ways are there to get from P to Q? 2. How many ways are there to get from Q to S? 3. Now, do you want to go PQ or QS, or do you want to go P to Q and Q to S? I'll say it again. Do you want to go from P to Q or Q to S, or do you want to go from P to Q and Q to S? Do you want to go and? You want to go from here to here, and you want to go from there to there. Right. And notice 2 times 3 is 6, which is what we got when we counted. How many ways are there to go from Pitland to St. Luke's going through R? Well, again, you could count. You could go 1, 2, there's 3 ways. That's it. Or if you wanted to, you could go, okay, there's 3 ways to get from P to R, and there's 1 way to get from R to S. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. So what is the total number of ways from P to S? Well, you could go this way, or you could go that way. So you just go 6 plus 3 is 9. Now, could you have just counted? Yes. You could have literally just done this. Whoops. You could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sometimes common sense is better than math. I just wanted to show you how the math works and what the difference between and versus or is. On the diploma, if this was a question on there, which is a perfectly legit question on your diploma, one of the answers will obviously be 9. What do you think one of the other distractors will be? 18. They'll go 6 times 3. Okay. You're good with that? Okay, so this is kind of like what we did yesterday now, combined with this word or. So it says the telephone numbers allocated to subscribers in a rural area consist of one of the following. The digits 345. Whoops, I'm in wrong pen here. The digits 345, followed by any 3 digits, or the digit 2 followed by one of the digits from 1 to 5, followed by any 3 further digits. So again, kind of modeling what I did yesterday with you guys was that take out the words and transfer it into symbols. Okay. So how many digits are there? We established this the other day. What's the total number of digits? Total number of digits is 10, right? 0 to 9. So are there any restrictions on any of those digits? No. In phone numbers, is it implied that repeats are okay? Can you have repeated numbers in phone numbers? Yes. So we're just going to go 10, 10, 10. So if you go 10 times 10 times 10, this will give you 1,000 phone numbers. Now I'm not multiplying it by 345 because 345 is set. There's no choices there. It has to be a 345. Okay, how many numbers are there from 1 to 5? 5. And then 10, 10, 10. So that will give you out 5,000 numbers. So option A will give you 1,000 choices. Option B will give you 5,000 choices. So how many different telephone numbers are possible? 6,000. Okay. Now, haven't mentioned this, but even though there's no algebra in this unit, you can't really check your answers in this unit. Okay. It's not like you can punch something into your calculator and compare it to your answer and make sure the decimals match up. Like you can't do that with this. You have to just trust that you filled in the blanks correctly. This section of the diploma, so this is the next unit that you see. So the first unit you're going to see is set theory. The second unit that you see is this one. It's about another 5 questions. So these 3 units that we're doing, so set theory, perms and comp, permutations, which I'll tell you what a permutation is in half a minute, maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll leave that till next week. And then the last unit is probability. Those 3 units make up over half of all the questions on the exam. These 3 units together. So there's about 30 some questions on the diploma, 32 I think, and so 17 of them will be from these 3 units. Okay. So, and it's the first thing you see right out of the gate. So, okay, and so for kids who like this stuff, you can't fail the diploma, okay, because it's over half your marks. For kids who hate this stuff, you start to struggle. But there's nothing telling you you have to start on question 1 on the diploma, right? Flip to the unit that you like and start there. So, okay, so consider, so this is just a refresher from what we did yesterday, okay? So it says, consider the number of distinguishable 4-letter arrangements that can be formed from the word English. Okay, so when you get questions like this, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine the word English is on Scrabble tiles. So each letter is its own little tile, okay? And we're going to rearrange those letters to create these new arrangements. So it says there is an implication here that each of the letters in the word English only occurs once and cannot be repeated. Do you understand why that's an implication? Why can we assume that? So if I give you all, like, how many, this is 7 tiles. If I give you all the exact same tiles and I say, okay, pick any 4 of them and arrange them side by side. If you pick, thanks. If you pick the S tile to be first, do you understand that you can't pick the S tile again because you've already picked the S tile? Okay, so again, the assumption here is there aren't repeats. These are the most popular type of diploma exam question, is where they give you a word, you imagine it on Scrabble tiles, and now we have to go through and do the blanks. Okay? I'm going to say this, and it's not to make you feel stupid, but just so that we're clear. It doesn't matter if you don't know what the word means. Like if I were to give you aardvark, it doesn't matter if you don't know what an aardvark is, it's irrelevant to the question. So if we give you some random stupid word, even like a word in like German, it doesn't matter. You're just thinking of them as Scrabble tiles because you're going to just rearrange them. Okay, so first thing you have to do is you got to figure out how many blanks to draw. So go back and read the question. What part of the question is going to tell you how many blanks that you need to draw? Right there. So you want to create a 4-letter arrangement. So you're going to go 4 blanks for each one of these. Okay. Okay. So again, notice it's not bolded. It's nothing drawing your attention to it. You've just got to read it. Okay. Okay, so this means any letter can be in any position. This means there's no restrictions. So you've got 7 Scrabble tiles in front of you. So pick one of them. How many choices did you have for the first pick? 7. Okay. How many choices do you have for the next pick? Then, and you just multiply. So again, I mentioned the other day, I'm not going to waste time plugging this in. We're just going to go from there. Okay, so I'm not going to waste time with us plugging this on our calculator. I'm going to assume if you can figure out 7654, you can go from there. Okay? Awesome. Okay, part B. The first letter must be an E. So this is a restriction now. So how many E's do you have in the word English? 1. So that means you've only got 1 choice for that first position. So you've placed the letter E. Now how many Scrabble tiles do you have left in front of you? Then 4. Okay? Okay, let's just do a little English refresher here. Vowels. There are 5 of them. A, E, I, O, U. If they want you to include Y as a vowel, they will tell you that in the question. If they don't mention it, there are 5 vowels, which means there are 21 consonants. Okay? So that's just a base understanding, kind of like what we expect when we say multiples of 5. We want you to know what that means. Okay? So it says first and last letters must be vowels. So this has to be a vowel, and this has to be a vowel. Okay, and it doesn't matter which blank we do first. If we just start with the first blank, how many vowels are there in the word English? 2. Okay, so you have 2 choices for the first one. So let's say you pick the letter I. So now how many choices do you have for the second one? 1. Okay, so you've used the E and the I. How many consonants or how many tiles do you now have left? 5 and then 4. So do you see how I'm asking you questions as we go and how I'm leading you through it? That's what you have to have a conversation within your brain. So when you're doing these, you literally have to talk your way through it. If when you're doing a quiz or test, it is silence between your ears, you're not doing this unit right. You should always be asking yourself, okay, I have how many choices for this? Okay, now how many choices do I have left? Okay, now what do I have to do with that? You're having that conversation with yourself the entire time. Okay, this one's tricky. So the reason why word is in quotations is that what we're doing here is we're creating 4-letter arrangements. Those arrangements aren't necessarily words. Okay, so on the diploma, they will say the number of arrangements. They will not say word in quotation because it's not a word that we're making. So all it does, it tells you it has to contain the letter G, but does it tell you what position the G has to be in? No. So the way you have to interpret this is you have to say, okay, G could be in the first spot, or the next one, or the next one, or this one. So when we get into some of these questions, you have to stop and go, hold on, have I accounted for everything that could happen? Okay. So how many letter G tiles, how many G tiles do you have? 1. So we know this is going to be a 1 all the way through. Okay, so you pick the letter G out. How many Scrabble tiles do you now have left in front of you? So it goes 6, 5, 4. Okay, now look what I do here. 6, 5, 4. 6, 5, 4. 6, 5, 4. Right? It's the same choice every time. So these are all being times because you need the G tile and another tile and another tile and another tile and. But your arrangement could be this or this or this. So I think this equals 120. So you would go 120 plus 120 plus 120 plus 120. Now, there is another way you could reason this. Okay? If this makes 100% sense to you, fantastic. Some kids, and I showed them this last semester, just so that we can have a choice here. Let's say you put G here. So we know it's 1, 6, 5, 4. But how many positions are there available for G? 4. So you could just go ahead and times this by 4. That and that will give out the exact same answer. It's, for lack of a better word, it's how you common sense attack a question. It's your reading capability. It's your comprehension skill. I mean, we were just talking about English class. It is pulling that meaning. Now, this isn't Hamlet, right? This is just straight up. There's no poetry involved here. But it is interpretation of text. Okay? Now, you can see from these answers. So here's the tricky bit on the diploma. Do you see how this is very easily a numeric response question, right? Okay. On our other units, when you were doing multiple choice questions, you could look through the 4 choices and go, well, I know it's not this because they divided when they should have multiplied. And I know it's not this because you have to go 5 minus 2, not 5 plus 2, right? You can kind of eliminate a couple of them. You're not going to be able to eliminate anything in this section because all the multiple choice will be 4 answers on the page. And you've got to try and get one. Now, if you calculate it and you don't get any of the 4 answers, circle C, move on. Like, I don't know. Like, there's nothing you could do to eliminate any of the choices. Okay, you're just going to have to try and hope that you've got it set up right. Okay, so maybe pick the one that's closest to what you thought it was. But it's really, these are Hail Mary questions. Okay, you either get them or you don't. There's no eliminating different choices. Okay. Okay. So we did this example the other day. It said Eric was asked to determine how many odd 4-digit numbers there are. So if we just go back and just refresh this question here. So 4 digits, okay, so 4 blanks. Odd means it has to end in an odd number. So we know we have 10 digits total, right? We know we've got 10 digits, 0 to 9, of which 5 are even and 5 are odd, right? So we did this one the other day. So we know that there's 5 choices for it to be an odd number. And then do you remember how we said it can't start with a 0? Okay. So if I just write the numbers here. Okay. So pick me an odd number. 3. Okay, so we've used 3. So we can't use 3. For the first position, we're not allowed to use 0. So how many choices do I have for the first position? 8. And then what you fill in the middle determines if you're allowed to have repeats or not. Okay, so that's what we did the other day. So let's say if you are allowed repeats, how many choices do you have for the middle squares? No restrictions. 10, 10. Okay? So that's what we did the other day. Does that make sense? A little refresher from yesterday? So right here, it says how many even 4-digit numbers there are and how many, oh, okay. How many even 4-digit numbers there are. Okay, so we're only going to do part I. We're not going to do part II. Okay. So how many even 4-digit numbers there are. So again, this time we want to end it with an even number. Is it going to be the same as that? Yes, because there's 5 even and 5 odd. We can't start out with a 0. And then there's no repeats. Or sorry, yeah, no, sorry, repeats are okay. So that means these can be anything from 0 to 9. So 10, 10. We're not going to do part B. Part B is a Math 30-1 question. We're not going down that road. Okay? So even though it seems like a different question, asking for how many odd numbers there are versus how many even numbers there are, it's actually the exact same question because there's 5 even and there's 5 odd. Okay? So the reason why I wanted to bring this question up to you is what is a popular diploma exam question? Is they will give you, let's say, 4 scenarios. And they want to know how many arrangements are there of blah, blah, blah. And the question will be, which 2 scenarios have the same number of arrangements? So you do each of the 4 questions, and 2 of them would have the same answer, even though they don't look like they're the same question. Here, case in point. The answer to part B here is 120. Each of these was also 120. So all of those have the same outcome, even though they look like completely different questions. So if this was a question on the diploma and I said, gave you this as a scenario, first letter must be E, and I gave you another scenario that said the second letter must be a G, so it's this one. Those 2 have the same number of arrangements, even though they look completely different questions. You just got to trust the process on this. Okay, so go in and circle these questions for me. And then I'm going to keep going on here and just finishing up one more thing.